all things real estate, where we dive into how to manage real estate processes, get tips on building an investment profile, create space for how to build a passive income, and most of all, how to navigate all things real estate. Here is your host, JennyProRealtor, who went from being a single mom to building an empire with over $1 million in assets in real estate. She is our expert, a twin plus one mom, and relates to the average income holder to how to build their empire and grow wealth in real estate. Hey guys, welcome to today's podcast. I have Samantha Wallace here. I'm super excited to talk to her because those who are listening to the podcast, if you are a single mom, been a single mom, or are single and not have any kids or even married, which is a lot of people that I work with in my real estate business, Samantha is someone you can definitely relate to. We've got a lot of things we're going to delve into of how she has continued to be a single mom and build her business while balancing motherhood life and being single, which is the dating life as well. She has been involved in real estate for 19 years. Her dad is a broker, so she's been very highly involved even when she was in high school. And she's had her license for 12 years, which is more than me. So obviously, I'm feeling like a little runner-up here listening to Samantha. She also has 11 and a half. She made sure very clear that we add that half girl. And she has one girl that she deals with. I should say deal with, that you love, right? It's not like deal with. But and I put 9 years for something. Oh, she's been a single mom for 9 years. So Samantha, I'm excited to talk to you today and kind of discuss a little bit more about how we can help women and get in the same mindset of not being victims in our situations, but rising above it and realizing that we have beautiful, wonderful lives, and who needs a man, right?
Exactly.
No, I am married, but I'll be honest. I told my husband I didn't want to get married, but unfortunately, love happened to me, and I'm happy. But I would love to be a single mom. So, Samantha, we started off by you saying that you got your real estate license when you were pregnant, which means you were married, right? Because you've been in license for 12 years. You were divorced 9 years. So you started your real estate license when you were married. Tell me a little bit about that. Why did you decide to become a realtor when you were pregnant?
Yeah. So, gosh, this is going to be sound like I'm very bitter, but I mean, it was just unfortunate circumstances. I mean, I married somebody who is not financially supportive at all. And so, I mean, I was struggling to make ends meet and figure it out. And, you work a 9 to 5 job, and that's just, especially for me, I was super sick when I was pregnant. And so there was just a lot of misery, and just, I felt trapped, in a sense. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, and, he's a broker. So real estate's always been something I'm familiar with. And it really was just there's freedom that comes with this. There are big opportunities. You're not stuck. You can go create. And that was kind of where I was. It was I was feeling trapped. I was feeling like I had hit a ceiling in what I could do, as far as, I didn't have a college degree. I was really just trying. And I think you and I graduated the same year, 2008, you're competing with lots of people with their MBAs and their masters, and
let's not get into where we went to school. I'm not the most happy, excited. I think my microphone. Oh, there, it's better. I'm not the most excited person about telling people where I graduated from high school. So,
well, I won't tell you where then, but but I think the year we graduated is important because it made it really, really hard to go off and be on your own and be financially stable. And that
lots of competition.
Lots of competition. And so I got to this point where it's I don't know what to do. I've got to figure out a solution, and I want to take some control and some power back into that. And that's the conversation I had. And I got my real estate license. And
so would you say that you were kind of out of the marriage emotionally and mentally by the time you got pregnant? You're just if I want a good life, I've got to kind of figure this out on my own.
Yeah. So,
not that this is about divorce, but I'm just curious because it seemed like your mindset was on I want to do this because I want this lifestyle.
Well, I mean, I've been in years of therapy. I can tell you exactly where my thought process was, but it's very much, it's a codependency thing, it's, taking on other people's problems and like, oh, if I just try a little harder, or if I make life a little easier, like they'll show up in the way you need them to. So that was definitely kind of where I was at that point. I mean, unfortunately, Camille was a save the marriage kind of baby. I had been married for a year and a half and was very much just,
Where do we go from here? Because this is kind of
yeah,
dead.
this is miserable. This isn't what I was
Yeah.
thinking it was going to be. And so had a baby that I love her to death. I'm so grateful for that choice, but that's definitely, it's a hard thing. And I don't think we realize sometimes that our children should not be a save the marriage effort. So, I
I
mean, at that
definitely can
point, I was
relate to that.
just,
I had one
yeah.
of those. I had one of those as well, and I ended up having a miscarriage, and then my divorce broke out literally like from the
Mm,
time I had my miscarriage, classified miscarriage to the divorce papers, it was like 5 months. So I
yeah.
would have been still pregnant during my divorce. So I definitely understand the whole like maybe that wasn't the greatest idea. I'm like, thank the heavens that I didn't have the baby.
Well, and that's the thing is it's like I actually a month before I left, I had taken out my IED. We were going to try for another, and I got to a point finally after I had a baby. That didn't fix things because it never does, and I went through a year of postpartum because I was very stressed and anxious and didn't have a good support system in my marriage. And so I went through postpartum for a year. I got things figured out, and it was one thing after another. I mean, we declared bankruptcy, we had a foreclosure. It was a lot. And I finally got to a point where it was like, you know what? I could do this
It's
on
about
my
damn
own.
time, right?
Yeah, I can do this on my own. I've been doing it on my own. Why do I have this partner who's dragging me down? Let me, just take control of that. And so I ended up getting divorced. And my daughter she turned 2 a month after I left. So she
So
hasn't ever really
similar to
known.
my story.
Yeah, it happens. I think it happens more than people realize, and especially in this culture. I mean, I don't know how young you were. I was 19 when I got married. I mean, I
That's
was
true. I remember
nineteen.
I got married because I went on the Mormon mission. So obviously
Yeah,
I think I got married at like 23. So yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I got married at 19, uh, had a baby at 21, and divorced by 23. So it was a lot of like life really crammed in. And I mean, all before, 25 when your prefrontal cortex is fully functioning. And
Yeah.
I mean, man, it taught me a lot, but it was hard
It is
choices.
hard because here you are jumping into being a mom. And I love that you say that because, like, sharing that you went through bankruptcy and then you had to go through a foreclosure, like, seeing people who are successful now as single moms, there was the story. Like, there was the bottom pit of, like, what in the hell am I going to do with my life now? I have this child that depends on me. I now don't have a supportive husband who never was there. But, you didn't even know what it was like to even have a supportive husband and a child. I don't think you ever have.
No, it's, I mean, I think the culture here definitely, I mean, anybody else, I think outside of this bubble we live in would have been like, whoa, you're 19 years old. You just graduated high school 6 months ago. Why are you getting engaged? Why are you getting married? Like, and I hope my daughter doesn't follow in my footsteps in that sense, because and we've had conversations about that, and she's still very much it's interesting because she's in this age where she's now seeing her parents get divorced. And
Mhm.
I started saying something the other day. I said, like, it's not the Disney fairy tale. And she said, yeah, that's what we want it to be, but that's not what it really is
It's
ever.
so
And
true. Oh, it's
I was
so
like,
true.
wow, I'm glad she's
Yeah.
like catching on to this sooner than I did. So
Yeah.
she's still not, I mean, I was like, don't get married when you're 19. And she was like, okay, I'll wait until I'm 21. And I was like, that's still too
That's
young.
still really young. Like, go
Yeah.
discover yourself, have fun, enjoy while you're
Yeah.
young.
Well, and that's just, it's a lot of life to live when you don't know who you are. And then you do figure out who you are, or start to figure out, and then you've made this commitment, and that's a lifelong commitment. And that's a hard thing to reconcile, is when you discover who you are versus a commitment you made when you didn't know who you were.
And wouldn't
Um,
you say that, like, even running a business or being, financially fit by yourself, discovering who you are and being comfortable in your own skin and confident with who you are, smiling back at yourself in the mirror, that goes hand in hand on how successful you're going to be in making your money, setting your bills, the relationships around you, like even being a good mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's full encompassing. And I think that, from one divorcee to another, you realize that's what was missing inside of yourself, was like giving yourself grace, having self-compassion. We talk about codependency. I'm like obsessed with codependency. So don't even get me started on codependency or narcissism.
Uh-huh.
They go hand in hand, right?
Right.
But then like discovering all these traits about who you are as an individual, you can't be successful, I truly believe, unless you have those things put together, especially when it comes to sales, because no one's going to believe in you unless you believe in you, right?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, like again, going back, and it's a depressing time. So maybe it doesn't sound depressing. It feels depressing to me. But I mean, the reason I got married is it was like it's hard to do this on my own, and I didn't believe that I could do it on my own. I didn't really think I had other options, and you're kind of raised to feel like that's the way life's going to be anyway, so you might as well jump into it. You know, as far as being married and like having a
This
husband who
box
goes
of
to work.
this box of what a woman's supposed to do, and yeah.
Right. Right. And so, and I really didn't have that belief that I could do it. And so that's where, I went into the marriage, and then it really got to a point where it's like, I'm doing it. Like I am the one doing this. I'm not being supported in that way. So I might as well do it on my own. And I had to come to terms with a lot of things, because there's a lot of guilt when you get divorced, and like, oh, my baby's not going to have this like perfect ideal life. And what am I doing to her? And it was like, you
Especially in
know
a
what?
Christian culture.
Oh, yeah. And it really just got to this point where I made a promise to myself, like, she will not notice the difference, being a child of divorce than she would if like she had two stable parents that stayed married. I said, I will figure it out. I will do it, because I can't keep living like this.
Now, Samantha, how did you do it? Like, how did you hit the ground running? Because you own your own home. You're working really hard to make sure you have time for your girl and for dating life. How did you start doing it?
So it really comes down to a lot of support. I mean, it's not like I chose to get divorced and then I was this like success overnight, right? It took a long time. I mean, my divorce process took about 9 months. I went and lived with my parents very briefly. I realized I
Me
don't want to
too.
do that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
me too. I lived with my parents for 6 months and I packed my bags one day and I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'll go
um,
figure it out on my own.
yeah, yeah. And and I say that, and but they really, if I didn't have my parents, I mean, I don't know, um what I would have done. I would have figured it out, I'm sure. But I luckily had, two parents who, I mean, my dad's been a real estate broker. I had my license. I worked in his office admin, while also doing sales, so I could have some steady income as I was, building my business. My mom did all the daycare for me, so I didn't have to pay for daycare. I didn't have to go through the anxiety of putting my child in daycare with strangers. So I mean, as much as I joke, like, can't live with them, without them, it would have been a lot harder. So I'm very, very grateful for them.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but I think the career itself is just, when you're self-employed, you can make things happen, the way you need it to happen. You don't have
And
to
it
like
comes down
check
to
in
your
with
scheduling
somebody.
too. Like with a kid, you
Hmm.
have to have a schedule of like, when am I going to do mom time? When am I going to do business time? When am I going to do me time? Like, let me ask you
Hmm.
this: do you have a custody split with your ex? Does she see your ex at all?
She does.
Okay, so
So
you
I
do
have.
have some time away from her to focus on you. That's why I ask.
Yeah, I mean, it's every other weekend, so
Yeah, that's what
it's
mine
not.
is.
Yeah. And it's great. I mean, I love,
I hate
my
it. No, I
dedication.
absolutely hate it. But you have to maximize that time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it isn't what you think it is. Like, it's a weekend, and that's a very short amount of time. And for me, when I started with the custody stuff, it's like how to transition from the mom mindset into like, okay, having my freedom and either, going on dates or hanging out with friends or working, like that takes almost 2 days, and then she's back and it's like, okay, well, here I am. So it's a lot of juggling. It's not easy. It's possible, but I think another thing that's important to realize too, and I think Shonda Rhimes said this, like you cannot be successful at everything. Like
Yeah.
whoever says like you can do it all and have it all is
I'm failing at
lying.
something.
Yeah, you're failing
Yeah.
at something. And I have failed as a businesswoman. There have been moments where I have failed as a mom. There have been a lot of moments where I've failed. And I've had to come to terms with like, I can't be this $1 million producing businesswoman and a Pinterest mom. Like there's just no way that I can
It's
do
very,
that.
very, very true. Yeah.
So I
Trust me,
think
I
having to
understand that now that I have twins. I mean, I did when I was a single mom, but much more now that I have twins. I'm like, just something's got to give. Like I can't do it all.
Well, and like as hard as my situation has been, like I have one child, and
Yeah.
that is a lot easier, I think, in some ways. It's harder in some ways because like she doesn't have playmates. I can't,
It's very
like,
true. Yeah.
growing up with siblings, you kind of raise each other.
Yeah.
She doesn't have that. And so there's a lot of times where I think she's very lonely, unfortunately. But
Sorry, I was making sure it just doesn't sound like it's on. Sorry.
okay, you're fine.
I would hate to be
I
in the
can
middle of
hear
an
the
episode. My
difference.
microphone's not on. Sorry. Okay, that's much better. So now I can actually hear. Okay. But
Okay.
yeah, that's true because I had a single kid too, right? And like now that I
Mm-hmm.
have twins, I'm like, well, there's pros and cons to that. But when I was a single mom, I would just have play dates come over while I'd work, and I'd be like, go over there and just play.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing to
Mm-hmm.
me how many women didn't want to reciprocate it and like have my
Mm-hmm.
kid go over to their house, right? And so it's like you would hope that people would understand what a single mom goes through. And I wasn't going to hold them against him for not inviting my kid over, right? But at the end of the day, it's like single moms don't get as much support from the community as you think that they could or that they should.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't.
Yeah.
You're kind of on your own.
Yeah. Well, and my favorite thing is like I've worked with people or had not so much friends, but acquaintances say like, "Oh yeah, my husband's out of town for a week, so I'm basically a single mom." And I like, you are not. You may feel that way, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you have a partner who's helping out financially at the very least, like maybe he's not helping out with the kids, but the financial stress is a big burden. I mean, it's huge. It's sometimes crippling.
Now,
So,
for you, like I feel like when I became a single mom, I thought, okay, like you, like I don't want daycare. I want the lifestyle where I have time for my child. I've got to hit the ground running. Like I've got to
mm,
make the phone calls. I've got to knock the doors. Like I've got to, like I had a coach at the time in real estate, I had a therapist at the time. I had an attorney because my divorce cost was 14 months, right? $70,000, long due process. It's disgusting. That's a whole other topic. But at the
mm-hmm,
end of the day, like I realized like real estate was something for me and I had to put my pedal to the metal and keep
mm-hmm,
moving forward. And there were times where I couldn't make my rent. So what did
mm-hmm,
I do? I pulled it out of a loan. It's like,
mm-hmm,
what do you do? Because I mean, I wasn't a 1049, I was a 1099. Everything was on me. But
mm-hmm.
this is what's so great, I think, is what makes women like you and me in real estate so amazing is that we have our passion and our motivation to be successful right in front of us. And it's that child, right?
Right? Yeah.
It's not going to slow us down. Like you are it.
Well, and there's no other option. I mean,
Yeah.
and I work with a lot of investors. I do property management mostly now, and I talk about investment strategies with people. And a lot of people come to me and they're like, "Oh, so how many investment properties do you have?" And it's like, I don't, because here's the thing: at the end of the day, I have had to like you have to choose what sacrifices you're going to make. And one thing that I have wanted for my child is stability. And so for me it's not like something I'm willing to risk a ton. Like now I have a plan, it's just going to take me longer, right?
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
but I'm not going to necessarily, because if I fail at
Yeah.
something, it's just me. I mean, I still am not financially supported in any way from her dad. Like
No child
there's just,
support. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm, I mean, very, very little,
Yeah.
very, very, very little. And I mean, if
And half the time
he,
it's not worth the fight if there's like an orthodontist or like an activity to do. It's like I got to do it on my own. Like
right,
because it's like you'd have to go to court to even get the money.
right. Well, and I mean, it's just like, it's very frustrating because it doesn't even take into account for like the time. So like even, he does pay like half of her medical expenses, and I'm grateful for that. I know there are a lot of women who don't get anything, and I feel for them. It's just, but still it's aggravating because it's like I had to take off time from work. I had to make sure she got there. It's not accounting for my gas. It's just paying for the dang appointment. It's not paying for the day-to-day everything. And honestly, like I if he disappeared tomorrow, it would not affect my life at all. Like,
That's how
and
I
that's
am
really,
too. I'm like, you're
yeah,
basically just building his college fund because I don't want to touch it, you know?
yeah, yeah. And it's frustrating. And so my whole thing has been, I'm going to make my child stable because unfortunately she doesn't have that um, from another parent. So
Yeah. So you say that you're in property management, which means you do the receiving of all of the documentation when it comes to leases, you receive the deposits. Do you guys hold the deposits in house or is that in the private? Is that in the owners?
no, so I own a full blown property management company.
Okay.
So we
So
have
do you
our
mind me
own
asking
trust
how many
accounts.
properties you manage, how many doors you manage?
Um, yeah, so we manage somewhere between 200 and 250 right now.
When you say we, is that within your brokerage?
It's within my company, my team. I have partners and employees, so I have a team that I work
Look
with,
at
and
you.
yeah.
Do
So,
you do payroll
uh,
too? Like,
do I do payroll? I
yeah.
mean, I'm still 1099, but I do have
Okay.
people
I
on
mean, like for
payroll.
your employees, because you say you have
Yeah.
employees. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah, they're on
Crazy.
payroll.
That's
So,
so awesome, Samantha, to think about that and how much you've accomplished. Over 200 doors that you're managing, and you have
hmm
employees, and you're a single mom. That's
hmm
incredible. Going from like, what do you call it? What did you say? Bankruptcy to foreclosing to having to deal with a 9-month divorce, a new baby. Yeah, your parents
hmm
were there, but at the end of the day, like you got shit done. Like
yeah.
you did. You said it doesn't happen overnight. Nothing ever
No.
happens overnight. And I think that's what's really important. It's like, no, you really have to put in the hours and the mentality that you are going to be successful to get there. And you're
Hmm.
there. Like it's not like the
Yeah.
dream that you're trying to compete with, but like you've got to think about I have so many single mom friends who are just struggling. And I think I really want to help them to move to the next level and to think about everything you've accomplished. Like you did that. Like it took a long time, but you did it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely a night and day difference. I mean, I would not go back for the world, to that dark moment. It's definitely a driving force. I know what it's like to have my credit card declined at McDonald's, when I just want a kid's milk
Or
because
to
I'm
be on
hungry,
WIC, right?
or to be on WIC or Medicaid, and I get it. It's really hard, and it is like when I because I think in this business too, we see like a lot of people who are very, very successful. And I think it's easy. I think everybody does it, whether you're in business or not,
To
to
compare.
compare ourselves to people's successful moments or their
Yeah.
highlight reel. But it is a good, like, when I sit back and I think, compared to where I am, I've got employees who count on the business that I bring in to, pay their salaries. I bring in, I mean, I'm probably bringing in about 20 to $35,000 a month just in commissions, and it's a lot. And but
That's amazing.
to remember being able to struggle to make my $500 mortgage payment 9 years ago, it's a big difference. So
Yeah.
it
And
can be done.
how long from when you were divorced or how old your daughter was, whatever one you want to answer, because you own your own home, right? You own a
hmm
townhouse for you and your
hmm
daughter. How long does it take you to get there?
Let's see. So I got divorced in 2013 and I bought my townhouse in 2015. So it took me 2 years to get back on my feet to the point where I could purchase a house.
So your daughter was 4.
Yeah, she was 4 turning 5. hmm
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember seeing
So,
this stuff on social media and I was like, yes, go you, like because my divorce broke out in 2018. So I was technically still married, when all of your stuff was happening. But I
hmm
just remember thinking that's amazing because I got my license in 2015. And so
hmm
you were just like on the uprise of like real estate. And I don't remember if mine like because my dad's an investor in like commercial real estate. So again, it was like in my
in your
blood,
blood.
right?
hmm
Yeah. And so I was pregnant and I was literally breastfeeding my son when I was taking the test. So I remember thinking to myself, I have literally 3 hours before I start leaking.
Yeah.
But that's just what we do, right? And you
hmm
can't compare yourself to other people. Like you
No.
can't think, like, as you said, I don't have investment properties. Who cares? Like you own your own home. How many single
hmm
moms can say that, Like
Well,
not that we're comparing, but you know what I mean?
yeah, no, and everybody's journey is going to be different. And it's just, and I'm the same way. Like, I have a lot of friends who are, and I feel like I'm about 10 years ahead of most of the people my age, just in the mentality. Because again, I
Of
lived
course.
like all
Therapy.
that life.
Therapy kicked you though.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, but having a baby as young as I did, and then you've got about, I mean, gosh, some of the people we went to high school with are still having, their first or second babies just now. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I mean, my kid's almost in junior
Yeah.
high, and that's crazy
Yeah.
to me. So, but yeah, we all have our own journey. And I mean, it's not an overnight success. I've lived off of credit cards at some point because you can't make ends meet. And, or, it's a big stretch between commissions.
Yeah.
And it's definitely because at that point, my daughter was younger and she needed her mom more than she does now. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a big shift, and thank God for public schools because, um,
As our
you
kids are in
know,
school right now. My other
right.
two are sleeping. So
Yeah, but I mean, you get it. It's like it's a huge difference when they're gone for a day, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I have 8 hours in a day
well, and
to
today's
go
your day
work.
visit, either today or tomorrow, right? Is your day visit with your ex? Do you do that?
No,
Okay, so he doesn't do the day visits. I have a day
he
visit
doesn't
today.
opt in. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
He don't mind. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that publicly, but yeah, we can talk about that privately. So today's
Okay.
my today's my ex's day visit. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, and
um,
it's great when you take, like, I love when my ex takes her, like when
yeah.
she goes for her 4 weeks in the summer, it's like there, I miss her. Don't get me wrong. Like, I really do miss
Yes.
her. I
Yeah.
have had 9 years of like compartmentalizing
Yes.
this, and it's
Yeah.
never that I don't want her around,
Of course.
like, but it is a sense of relief. And I was laughing because she's very independent. She's always been very independent, but she's at this age where I can be gone for a few hours and she doesn't care. She prefers it, like she wants to just do
Mom's
her own
gone. I'm getting into
thing.
the Twinkies. Like,
Exactly. And it's like I go out to do things and invite her along and she opts to stay home. And so we're in this like new part of life. And so I laugh because it's like when she's gone for 2 weeks, there's still a sense of like taking that mom burden
Mhm.
off a little bit. I mean, I don't think it's ever gone completely. That's just not how
No,
mothers are wired. But
you're working
you do
harder
get.
for them when they're gone. You're like,
Mhm.
this is my
I got to
chance
get
to
all
work
this
harder for
in,
us.
yeah,
Yeah.
while she's gone, so that I can
Yeah.
have a little bit of time with her when she's back. So.
So, what does your typical day look like being a single mom and managing the work and everything?
So typically we get up around 7, and it hasn't always been that way. I mean, I've had chronic depression, which that's a whole other story of overcoming that. But, um, so anyway, right now she gets up at 7. She gets herself ready to go. Like, she is the easiest kid. I am very, very blessed that way. I just have to worry about myself in this hot mess right here. But
Hey,
so
you got a lot on your plate.
yeah. But I do get up and I come into the office every day. I mean, I don't answer to anybody necessarily except myself and my clients. But I come into the office. I'm usually in about 9:30, sometimes earlier,
Does she go
sometimes
drop the
later.
kid off at school, or does she take the bus? Make sure she
She
gets on the
takes the
bus.
bus. My life
Yeah.
is so easy right now. I mean, she gets herself up, she dresses herself, she feeds herself, she has an alarm on her phone that tells her when to leave. And so, which makes, she's always been very independent this way. And so,
I think when
again,
you're an
like,
only child, that comes very naturally
I
because
think
you're more
so.
around adults than you are kids. So it's
Hmm.
like you kind of claim yourself to like what an adult would do, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and like, she's been a child of a single working mother since she was 2 years old. I mean, it's been like,
Yeah. She don't know any different. Yeah.
no, and sometimes you're on the phone with a very demanding client and it's like, sorry, kid, like, I have to lock this door. Like, you're gonna have to fend for yourself for 30 minutes. And, I mean, a lot of people can criticize that and you're
Oh,
welcome
I do
to.
it. Don't even go there. I do it. And I have younger kids. I'll
But
be like,
if
I'll like be voicing to them, shut up. I'm on the phone.
oh, the snapping, it's
Yeah.
like big snaps, like,
Yeah, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm
like,
so sorry. Someone's on the phone." Like I'm meeting with like someone in real estate today, and they're like, "Well, you can bring your twins." I'm like,
nope.
No, I can't do that. Like, I
Mm-mm.
don't think you understand. Like, I used to be able to do that with my 2-year-old, my 3-year-old. He was
Mm-hmm.
like my side mascot. Like, come to all my events,
Mm-hmm.
like my closings, like my consultations. People loved him, but I'm like, you don't want my twins. That's
No.
I can't talk to you when I have them in with my arms. I'm like, ah.
Right. Well, and I think it depends on the client you're working with too, because there are some
Totally.
clients where it's like, no, they're all business. There's not that, like, I mean, there's some people you connect with better than others on a personal level.
And I think this is the beauty of sales, though, too. And correct me if you feel differently, is that when you're in sales, you attract people who are very similar to you and how you want to do things business wise. And my favorite kind of people to work with are people that already know, like, and trust me, where I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
force them to know, like, and trust me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like that, like, for example, my babysitter didn't show up the other day and I was supposed to go show 3 houses, and I'm like, oh shit, like, what am I gonna do? And I'm like, worst
Mm-hmm.
case scenario, I have to bring my twin. She's like, just bring them. I'm like, I don't want to bring them. My babysitter ended up showing up. Thank freaking goodness. But I mean, those are the type of things that I attract those kind of clients. They know that I have 2 babies that I have to deal with right now. And being a single mom, I'm not a single mom. Granted, the majority of the time I am dealing with my babies and my business by myself because it's just, I
Mm-hmm.
work when I can. And so I think in this business, I felt like my business did better when I was a single mom. I feel like when I got married and I told this to my husband, I was like, you realize when I get married that my business is going to trail off a little bit because people want to help single moms in my business, not those who are
See,
married. And
no,
maybe you had a different
no.
experience. I don't know.
Oh, I have such a different
Oh,
experience. And well, I mean, you have to think again. I grew up in real estate. My dad was a real estate broker. He had
so he had a
hundreds of
lot of
real estate
relationships already
agents
established. Yeah.
with agents, and
Yeah.
so my sphere of influence was other real estate agents. Like,
Yeah.
those were the people that I
And
was
they weren't
reaching out
helping you
to.
bring money in. Like,
No, no, I mean, like, they're competition, in a sense. And I love them all and I'm grateful for the lessons that they've taught me, like, I think I learned a lot, but they weren't my source of
income.
and income. No. And again, at 21, what 21-year-olds are purchasing homes or selling
Mhm.
homes? Not a lot.
Yeah.
So, my sphere of friends that I had gone to high school with, or, the
Like me.
college. Yeah.
Samantha and I
No.
went to high school, if I didn't mention that. Like, we had our drama fits and the whole 9 yards in high school, but here we are.
Yeah, right. It's funny how it comes full circle, but God. um, but no, like, no, I didn't have the typical sphere that people who get into real estate deal with.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well, what advice would you give someone who is in a similar boat to you, whether they're a single mom or they're single or What advice would you give them on how to feel like you're not a victim and you can find financial freedom?
Um, I would say fear is going to be your biggest obstacle. Uh, I think a lot of people feel like they're being watched way more than they are. I mean, I felt like I was under a microscope when I was going through my divorce and when I was trying to build my business. And I felt like I really couldn't open up and be 100% myself and authentic.
Yeah.
I felt like I had to show people, like, oh, hey, I'm still successful, because why else would they want to work with me? You
So
know,
stop competing with the mainstream of what you feel like you're supposed to be doing at that point in time in your
yeah.
life. Yeah.
Well, and nobody cares as much as you do about
Yeah.
you. I
You're
mean,
not on
honest.
stage. The lights aren't shining on you. I mean, like right now I have, but that's a different story,
Mhm.
but
But the thing is, you're friends with people on social media and you see snippets. Okay. I don't think beyond the little snippet I saw. Very rarely do I say, whoa, like, what's going on? Let me go and investigate into this person's, like, what they've been up to.
and then judge them. Like you're not
And
even,
then
yeah.
judge them,
Yeah.
or want to tear them down, or really, like, even remember it a week later,
Yeah.
right? That rarely happens. And I think if most people would realize no one's watching you, like, you get to
Yeah.
make mistakes. Because when I started, we still were doing a lot of phone calls. Like, social media had just barely kind of
Yeah.
started being a thing or a
Yeah.
source of
Marketing.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're still doing phone calls and that sort of stuff. And it's really hard. It's like, oh my gosh, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I, like, embarrass myself? What if they ask a question I can't answer? And it's like, you know what? They don't know what I look like. If I run into this person in a grocery store, neither one of us are going to realize it. Like, just get on the phone and try and practice, and it will get easier and more natural.
Just
Um,
practice, 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 practice. Yeah. And, it's almost like you're talking about being self aware, but don't worry about what people are seeing you as, but be self aware that, like, you are in control. Like you said, like, they don't know what I look like. Be self aware. Like, it's fine. You're going to
mhm,
be okay and you're going to mess up. And, you always hear about all of these great, big, successful people and all like the motivational speaking. But at the end of the day, it's like, there's a grind that's happening behind that. You're listening to somebody who's been in the business for at least 15 years, who has a whole bunch of stories. And so it's why I love that you shared from the beginning of what really was going on. Like you and I are both the same way. It's like nobody knew that there were sometimes I couldn't make my rent and that I was on WIC and I was only buying milk and
mhm,
cheese and bread. Like
mhm.
people ask me, how did you do that to buy in your own house? I'm like, do you really want to know? Because it's not like this like fun thing.
No, and it's not even a linear path. I mean, there are still moments where it's like I feel like I've taken 5 steps forward and 2 steps back,
And
and
that's okay.
and that's part of the journey, and it's
Yeah.
totally fine, and it's okay if you get fatigued. And my other piece of advice would be really, like, invest in yourselves. Like, I think a lot of us like to take those personality tests. Like, we like to know, like, okay, this is like, the type of person I am. I would challenge people to go a step further. Why are you that way?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'm this, my personality type on that Myers-Briggs scale. I'm an INFJ. Okay, well, what does that mean? And why are you that way? Like,
Yeah.
what made you that way? And are you happy with that? Like, do you
Yeah.
feel content in that? And again, it just comes down to, like, getting to know yourself and, like, feeling comfortable in that. Um, Boundaries are super important. Like, if you're always, like, putting on a role and, like, not letting people in and not showing who you really are, it's going to
Yeah.
drain you. You're gonna burn out. You can't sustain pretending to be someone you're not.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you, Samantha, and coming on and talking about all of the good, bad, and ugly. But at the end of the day, you are a successful woman, and I wouldn't have had you
Well,
come on my podcast unless I didn't feel it otherwise. And so I
well,
really
thank
appreciate
you.
you sharing your story. I could talk all day about boundaries and codependency and self awareness and emotional intelligence. Like I have a whole nother business that I deal with that. And so
Right.
I could go on and on and on about it. I actually one day want to write a book about being codependent on God and, the culture that we
Mhm.
grew up in and the whole sphere of what that's like, because I believe success truly begins, like you said, looking back on the whys and why am I that way? Stop focusing on putting the puzzle piece together, deconstruct the puzzle, and then you'll get farther. Like figure out where the pieces are going to go by looking at them and why they're going to fit the way they fit.
Well, and just accepting them,
Yeah.
like it's light years different. Like when I felt like I had something to prove and I had to be a specific way instead of myself, and I felt like I had to change. My boundaries weren't there. It let a lot of toxic people into my life. It drained me. I ended up, I mean, I had burnout 2 years ago. And then really went on a deep dive. I mean, I go to therapy once a week and have done for
Oh, I'm
the
so
last
jealous.
2
I wish
years.
I could do that.
Well, I mean, it's expensive. It's not for everybody, but if you find the right people to kind of challenge you and to like, and really, I got to a point where it's like, I'm not happy. Like I've made all these changes. Like I have a better life than I ever did, and I'm still not feeling great. And it's like, okay, well, why?
Self-aware. Yeah.
And you dedicate so much of your life to your kids, your clients, like everything else around you. And it's like, I'm going to take, a few $100s and an hour a week to dedicate to me and really get to know who I am and what drives me and what is happening, because I am the constant in my life.
Yeah.
So like if you've got a lot of patterns that are coming up and like it doesn't make you happy, guess what? You're the common denominator. You're the one that needs to like figure out why. And sometimes it's not like I've changed at all. It's I've come to accept and love
Yeah.
the parts of me that fail. And that's huge.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. And for
Yeah.
this podcast, I want to get together with you physically because I literally haven't seen you in like a decade.
I know.
So,
I think the last time I don't even remember. I can't
I don't
remember.
even
That's
know.
not
We've
a
been
good
following
sign.
each other on social media. That's how we do it.
Yeah.
But thank you again, Samantha, for coming up on the podcast. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again.